And this topic is about environmental footprint, measurement. And I'm really curious, when did you learn that this is super important for the fashion industry?
Well, actually, I already learned about it in 1994 when I did my graduation project at the Faculty of Industrial Design Engineering at the Delft University of Technology. And I wanted to make a comparison between clothing made of natural fibers with clothing made of half synthetic and synthetic fibers. And I knew that there was this method, life cycle assessment, with which I could actually calculate the environmental impact. But at the time, the method wasn't that developed yet, and data were not available. So I had to fax to Poland and Pakistan for info. So that was quite difficult, and it remained to a qualitative assessment. And now I take a leap to 2010, when I started my PhD. And I was happy since the method and the standards, the ISO standards, evolved and were ready. And I could redo the calculations from my graduation. And if you want to know more about that, then read my thesis. You can find it on the TU Delft repository or on ResearchGate. But yeah, so that's how I became this LCA expert. And working with measurement, impact measurement of clothing and textiles.
Nice.
And what about you?
Thanks. So I'm actually already also leap back to 2004 when I was graduating Amsterdam Fashion Institute. I did a thesis on organic cotton and made this call to several international brands. Hey, you have to purchase organic cotton because it's so much better, blah, 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 blah. But I didn't have really, quantitative data to really back that up. Moving ahead a bit further, I worked in the fashion industry for over 20 years, all in all. And 2 years ago, I started and founded Rethink Rebels, a circular fashion consultancy. And I noticed, okay, if you want to have the internal discussion, you need to back it up with data. So I studied at TU Delft a course about LCA measurement with Professor Joost Voigtlander. And he told me, you have to meet Natascha van der Velden. So I read some of your reports, and since then we're connected. Yeah.
Yes, yeah. Okay, well, let's go back to theory then.
Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah. So we all know this graph, and we all know that clothing production doubled over the last 20 years, and the utilization of clothing declined. So this is a trend that we really do not want to continue. And you can show the next slide.
Yeah.
We also all know this famous advertorial of Patagonia, "Don't buy this jacket." But to me, there's something unfair in it, since Patagonia shifts responsibility to the consumer. Don't buy. But actually, isn't it so that the brands and producers who make the clothing are responsible for the sustainability of it? So I would rather say, Patagonia, don't make this jacket. And then you can show this next slide. So what we should do is bend this trend and produce less amount of clothing with better quality and higher value. Okay, but we need clothing. For example, we need workwear. And here you see a coverall of Textile Safety BV. And a student of mine of the Circular Textiles Lab of the Center for Sustainability, he made an LCA of this coverall. And you can see it's small, but you see that two phases have large impact. The material and manufacturing phase and the use phase. So Nino proposed some interventions for reducing the impact, for example, changing from cotton to hemp. And by that means, he could lower the impact massively. So this is how you can work with LCA and with impact measurement, and can take next steps towards more sustainable clothing, which we need in the end anyway.
Yeah,
So.
and not only, of course, in the workwear or the corporate wear industry, we need impact measurements, but we also need that in the fashion industry and fashion businesses. For example, this 100% cotton T-shirt, well, in general, it needs 2,700 liters of water. The emissions are 2.1 kilograms of carbon dioxide, and et cetera, et cetera. With making the data accessible and to have it like here, you can make also better decisions and take your responsibility as a producer, as a brand, as a professional. Because, for example, now, if you work for a company who has a strategy to reduce the water intake, to be more responsible for water use, then maybe this is not the best decision to take. So this is how you could use the life cycle assessment also in your communication.
Yes, and we also know these roadmaps to circularity, but it's not a definition that circular is sustainable. You probably know the discussion which was initiated by Finnish researchers on rental services and on the impact of that. So there's this discussion going on, which is good, but it might be that the circular solution you chase is not the most sustainable one. And to know, you need to measure.
Yeah, so actually what I hear also here is that we need to have more knowledge and that we need to measure, as you said. And here we've written down also why you should measure. Well, for example, first of all, to know where you are as a brand with your products, so you can measure, okay, so this is what the water use we have in total. This is our carbon dioxide emissions. You can have a base level of your current environmental impact. And if you have that base level, you can also have those KPIs and those actions to reduce that and take your responsibility. Also to set realistic goals and targets, to lower negative impacts, to avoid greenwashing. Also the Authority of Consumers and Markets, they're really strict on how you communicate. Can you back it up? Can you back it up with data? And this is where we're going to, because we need to be trustworthy as brands. So it's also to generate trust with your target group and with your customers. And eventually to produce beautiful, high quality, high value products with a as low as possible negative environmental impact.
You're very welcome.
Yeah.
Are there questions maybe?
Natascha, earlier you said the most circular solutions.
Oh yeah, the microphone will come, yeah.
It's a question for you, Natascha. Earlier you said the most circular solution is not the most sustainable solution. So that's the reason why you have to measure. Mm-hmm. But can you give an example of the most circular solution which is not the most sustainable?
Yeah, I'm not sure whether I said it exactly that way, but what I meant to say is that circularity and sustainability are two different things, and not all circular products, services have to be or are sustainable, that you have to measure. And I mentioned the example of the calculations that were made by these Finnish researchers, and they, mainly the impact of the rental service is in the last mile, so the driving to the rental service with your car. And that might be something you completely forget when you think about setting up a rental service. So those are things you need to know, and you can only know by measuring that. And but it's not said that it's always that way. It depends on the scenario, so you have to be very careful. And now these Finnish researchers, of course, the subject is now under discussion, which is good. And another example I can give is that it might be that if you put in your circular solution more energy, or you need more energy to accomplish your circular solution, then you could do it with a linear solution. Then the circular one is not the right one. So, yeah, that's maybe a bit of illustration.
Okay, clear.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so thanks a lot for your presentation. I would like to go back to the slide about cotton. I myself am working directly with cotton farmers in India, rain-fed. And I definitely have a problem with how we are making world averages, let's say, the amount of water being used. If we create an average for the world and we put 2,700 liters on that, knowing that it can be as little as, let's say, 400 and as high as 10,000, then if I would make my choices based on this illustration, then I'm missing a lot of the nuances. Even you're saying about the CO2 emission, but what if I have a regenerative or organic cotton cultivation where I'm actually sequestrating cotton in the soil?
Yeah.
So I think that is my overall challenge with LCAs, is that they have to be really specific, especially when you look at the material side. There we can really make a lot of good choices or a lot of differences. But then we really need to know what we are dealing with. And if we're just using averages, then we are in a way comparing apples and pears, and we still don't know it.
Yeah.
Would you like to answer this?
Yeah, I think we can both answer it. Really good point. Absolutely, it's true. If you are cultivating cotton in a rain-fed country, then there's hardly any water usage. And if you have wet processing stages where there's recirculated water system, there's also hardly any water use. The fact is that, yes, a full classical LCA, very specific, is the best, but it's really time-consuming and it's really costly. Right now, we work with databases from Edomod and EcoInvent that are based on generics. And it's just a little, one step we can make already to make more informed decisions. It's not 100%. But if we are more aware that we have several processing stages, and then we become aware, hey, but how is our wet processing system actually built? Those are questions that in general we don't ask ourselves now, today. We do not have that knowledge widespread. So this is a first step into getting more informed and to make more qualitative decisions. It's not 100% perfect at all, no, yeah. But it's really close.
And maybe I can add, because in LCA, there are already new methods included for measuring the water footprint, or for measuring better water footprint, also for using country or regional energy. But that is something more for LCA experts than for this masterclass we offer to brands and that don't know so much yet. But still, also with the data we provide, you can make more precise LCAs, since you also can go back to the primary data. But of course, and I just said it also with the circular solutions, it depends on the scenario. And that's something we also will learn to you in this course, that there are several scenarios. You have to really well define what you're doing. And in general, this more so-called fast-track LCA is not really less accurate than a full LCA. But of course, in cases just like what you mentioned, like you have been working on, it is. So we have to make nuances in it. And so I agree with you. But it's very nice to hear that you have these cotton farmers making cotton in this way. So but it's a thing that needs to be more communicated maybe to the broader audience. But we will take it along in our masterclass.
I really like your remark, because this is really nailing down the fact that we need more and better data in the fashion industry. Because, that's just a general remark I would like to state here, because what we see with several LCA tools that are now out there and that get a lot of traction, some industries are hurt by those figures. So I think in general, if we get this knowledge, we become more aware of, hey, but this could be different, this could be different, but maybe there's a little nuance, and hey, what about that? We're gonna ask ourselves those questions as a whole, and that will lead, so the knowledge will lead to a better industry, eventually. I'm sure of that. So it's a step.
And it's not the LCA that makes these kind of numbers, it's the data that make the numbers, and what you put in the LCA, and of course how it's communicated further. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. There are also some people online who want to pose questions, and I think it's the last question because we are over time already. It's a question I would like to pose from Teresa de Oliveira. She asks, are the database of impact calculation enough complete to make the measures? Repeat it, maybe?
Wil jij het antwoorden?
Yeah, sorry. Could you repeat that, please?
Of course. Are the database of impact calculation enough complete to make the measures?
They could always be better, definitely. And I think it also tracks back to the question we just had. Yes, we need better figures. We have figures right now, but I think we need more focus on if we, for example, have a new technology, new fiber, more sustainable fiber, then that we also back it up with the data and really have a big focus on that. There are a lot of data sets in the offered open source data, which is also quite important to say that. So it's accessible for everyone. It's not only accessible for the big brands who have those high the marketing investments that they can make. It's open source, and it works really good to get the overall understanding and to start working with it.
Okay, thank you very much for your contribution.
Thank you.